responding to the message led by the Most Honorable Prime Minister and party leader. We have, as you know, rolled out our achievements document. It was important for us because we have been in office for 9+ years, and we are pleased, having reviewed the response, the demands, the requests for more, and indeed the contents and the comments related to the contents, that it was the right thing to do, and the feedback on the ground has been extremely positive. Our first major mass rally, for want of a better term, which was held in Halfway Tree, where we rolled out all our candidates on display and reinforced the message of the Labour Party. We are very satisfied both with the turnout, but the organization, in fact, the commentary, both from those watching in TV land or those present, is quite positive, and it is for us in keeping with the approach that we expose and we want to maintain in this campaign, as we have as a government: orderly, disciplined, and hopefully effective because of the consistency of the message. So those two large events, we think, have gone very well, and we're happy so far with what is happening. We are not going to get complacent, however, nor distracted, and there's a lot of noise in the environment. Our focus is to continue the work, and there are other things that will happen in the coming days and coming weeks, and you will be told or be kept abreast of those developments as they unfold. Nomination day, we're all set for that. That's on Monday, and our candidates are very confident, are prepared, are adding the final touches on the ground in their constituencies, in their communities, and oiling their machinery to make a positive impact, and of course to get the best possible result, which is to get them elected to the Parliament. We have our own program, and we're pursuing our program, but it is a competitive space, and we have to take note of what the others are doing, and indeed where we think we need to comment, we comment. We do notice that the People's National Party rolled out a document that they have termed their manifesto, and we want to spend a little time today with the team to comment on aspects of that document. Not everything, but certain aspects of it, and my colleagues here on the platform are going to take different areas. I just want to give a general summary, however, in the first instance, and then a quick summary on the health aspect, given that I man that portfolio. First of all, it clearly seemed to have been a very rushed and hurriedly prepared document, just by way of how it was laid out, and the errors that were in the document forces us to conclude that not a lot of thought went into it, and clearly the time that should have been spent, that one would expect for an organization that is hoping to provide leadership in the country, that was certainly betrayed based on what we saw presented to the country. Having perused the document, we found multiple spelling errors, as a case in point. We were chastised for one spelling error in our achievements document. It wasn't an error on our part, but nevertheless, we took the criticisms, and they did a lot of that criticizing. Their document had multiple, not one. I think the last count was about 8 or more, and that's just the spelling error. There were several inaccuracies in the document. The one that was quite outstanding to us is the reference to, in the table of contents, of 8 pillars, then the address by their leader of 10 pillars in the document, the same document, and then the term love, Jamaica love, which has each letter referring to a document, an area of focus, and that is 11 areas of focus. So the first question I would ask is, what is it? Is it a pillar of 8, a pillar of 10, or a pillar of 11. Clearly what it signals to us is that it is confusing, and you wonder if that is the approach that they would want to take to providing leadership as a government. I mentioned that because it sounds simple, but they made a big issue with it when they noticed the one spelling error in our document. And clearly it reflects on them and what they represent. For us, the manifesto seemed to have been a copy and paste wish list, ranging from being incoherent to major imitation of what currently entails and what this government is doing. And my colleagues will speak more on that. In one case, it had a number of impractical suggestions that we think would need a lot more explanation and raises more questions than answers. And in another case, they seem to have repeated a lot of what the government is doing. And we are doing it with success, and we'll elaborate a little more on that. You know, they promised to reduce electricity costs, for example. But as you know, the debate, the discussion around them signing an electricity deal that drove up the cost of electricity. It is now that this government and the Minister Vaz, is now attempting to renegotiate that arrangement in order for the consumers, for the Jamaican people to benefit. The manifesto appears to be promoting ideas that seems not well thought out or risk reversing the gains we believe that we have made in terms of our economic model. And the theme Jamaica loves doesn't reconcile if that's the direction the country is going to go in, because it's one thing to say you love Jamaica and love Jamaicans, but if your policies and programs run a risk of increasing debt, increasing poverty, and increasing unemployment, then clearly that is not a love that is worthy of note or certainly acceptance. And there are several examples of them prescribing certain policies that runs counter to what their theme captures in their manifesto. Our campaign has focused on critical achievements, and with good cause, because we have been in government for such a long time. And our achievements that we have listed, all 256, are tangible achievements. And we will continue to appeal to the Jamaican people to judge us on those achievements: the reduction in poverty, reduction in crime, the increase in unemployment, the largest job creation that has ever taken place, and several other achievements which we have put out on display and which have impacted people on the ground. That for us is the big pitch, and why we humbly suggest it justifies us remaining in office for the next 5 years. I'm going to spend a few minutes on health because, again, in keeping with the cut and paste approach, a number of things were suggested within the health portfolio that we are in fact addressing. They speak about maternal care, and I know they have made some issues with that in the past year. Maternal mortality is actually trending down. In the COVID years, it was just over 200. It's now 133 a year ago. We're still tracking the numbers to see what it was last year. We have done a number of things to impact maternal mortality, in improving engagements with mothers early in their pregnancy, governance and monitoring, facilities and equipment that have been upgraded, a lot more engaging approach at the primary healthcare level. In fact, the statistics indicate that last year, some 45% of mothers visit with their health centers to get medical care and support and advice, as opposed to almost half that amount 3 years prior. And this was after COVID. So we are seeing significant improvements, and those improvements will continue. And what they are proposing in their manifesto is what we are actually doing. They speak about the National Health Fund and the expanded care that they propose to provide in the under the National Health Fund. Since 2015, 9 conditions of illness have been added to the National Health Fund. So the government has actually expanded coverage under the National Health Fund. We have added sickle cell disease, lupus, cervical cancer, attention deficit disorder, colorectal cancer, multiple myeloma, lung cancer, Parkinson's disease, and thyroid disease. In other words, these were areas that were not covered under the PNP and are now covered under this administration. In 2015, less than 1 million prescriptions were written. Last year, 3 million prescriptions were written. We have more outlets for drug dispensation, which we are giving more drugs. We're treating more categories of illnesses. And within the appropriate time when our manifesto is unveiled, we will speak more about the additional role that the National Health Fund will take on. They speak about the diaspora and making it easier to donate. There's a number of things that we have done as a government to improve diaspora engagement. My colleague, Minister of Foreign Affairs, is beside me, and she can comment on some of those things, but we've effectively set up an entity within the ministry. We have direct staff that now deals with diaspora arrangements. We have eliminated the cost to ship things in once they are verified as donations. We have made it easier to deal with clearance, customs clearance, with approvals if it's a medical mission. And one reflection of that success is the Adopt a Clinic program, where 55 health centers have been adopted across the country, and maybe 70% or thereabouts of those are linked to persons living in the diaspora. No other government has engaged the diaspora as effectively, not just in health, but in all areas. Credit to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, who has primary responsibility for that area. The final one I'll mention, even though there are several others, to allow my other colleagues to come in, is cancer care. It is a big area, and the government is seized with that. It's the fastest growing area of illness, even though it's not the largest cause of mortality in the country. We have done a number of things, both on the prevention side, where the issues around unhealthy diets, physical inactivity, tobacco legislation, alcohol, air pollution, the HPV vaccine, which has been introduced to the population, the introduction of the fecal immunochemical test for colorectal cancer screening in primary healthcare facilities, mammograms, which were not available before, are now available. We need to do more, but we have started to introduce those testing. It's available at KPH and Cornwall Regional, pap smear screening, and improvement in the turnaround time. Diagnostic services are more available today than they were in 2015 when they were there. I'm prepared to say we have more to do, but we are certainly better off, and we're on a journey that will take us to even a better place in the next term. And in terms of clinical care, we have had a technical working group updating clinical guidelines on breast, prostate, colorectal, and cervical cancers, as well as expansion of treatment services at a number of institutions, Mandeville Regional, Spanish Town, St. Anne's Bay Hospital, and as I said earlier, 3 additional categories of cancer drugs introduced under the NHF, which never existed before. I say all of this, and it's just a summary, to say that what the PNP has done is essentially, in a sort of hodgepodge type of way, cut and paste, that's how it appears, and not very well or professional, with all the errors that are present in the document, with ideas that are either being pursued with great success by this government, or ideas that are impractical, and they would need to explain to the Jamaican people how they intend to implement those without putting us back to where we were when they were in office. Before I introduce my colleague, I just want to say that our manifesto is ready and will be launched at an appropriate time. And therefore, we will have a basis and hope the country and the voters will have a basis to compare and contrast. And we're very proud of the work that we have done. It is obviously a follow-on from the work that has been done over the last 9 years. And we believe it will put Jamaica at a better place and have us as a government doing even more for the people of Jamaica. At this point, I want
Welcome, everyone. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. So it's the JLP's conference update in the context of campaign and matters arising. And we just had, Dr. Christopher Tufton sharing generally in the context of what is happening and just setting the tone and also responding to some of the health issues or I guess proposal that was raised in the PNP's manifesto. All right, so we're just going to go back there. I think Favel is Miss Favel Williams, so let's go over.
I agree with you. The point needs to be repeated that the PNP hurriedly put together a manifesto with many errors, and the fact that the PNP does not know if they are talking about 8, 10, or 11 pillars shows a slapdashedness about the PNP's manifesto. As you heard, and I am repeating it in the table of contents, the PNP called it 8 pillars. In Mark Golding's written segment of the manifesto, he referenced 10 pillars, and in their diagram in the manifesto in which they spelled out Jamaica Love, they itemized 11 pillars. So which is it? 8, 10, or 11? The maths is not mathsing. PNP made many promises in the manifesto. And as the Jamaican people are pressing for the cost of those promises, the PNP has hurriedly put out a cost. They said that their many promises will cost 10% of discretionary funds. First, I'd like Jamaicans to know that there is no major line item in the budget called discretionary funds. So for the PNP to be speaking of discretionary funds, it shows their fundamental lack of understanding of this country's budget. Jamaica's budget rolls up into some major segments: programs, 359 billion, compensation of employees, 496 billion, interest payment, 177 billion, capital expenditure, 63 billion, and then you have loan payment and loan receipts. So if they do not understand the budget, I want Jamaicans to really ask themselves, are the PNP ready to lead this country if they don't understand the budget? I don't believe that they are ready to lead this country. So I say to Jamaicans, if you take nothing away today from this press conference, I want you to take away with you the fact that the PNP does not understand government, the PNP does not understand Jamaica's budget, and the PNP is not ready to lead this country. But let's examine their 10%. The only line item in the budget that they could be thinking of is a line item called programs. Programs are recurring, which means they have to be provided for year after year after year, and includes things like PATH, grant store schools for operations of the schools, funds for public order and safety, funds for waste management, health supplies and services, art and cultural services, social security and welfare services, which include sickness and disability, help for senior citizens, survivors assistance, funding for family and children. These are all important programs that continue year after year after year. And so I would like the PNP to tell Jamaicans today or any day before Election Day on September 3rd, 2025, which of these programs they will cut, eliminate, or defer into the future in order to fund their raft of promises. And I'm asking the Jamaican people not to let them off the hook with these promises that they're not telling you how they will fund them. If they can't tell you how they will fund them, then they are simply empty promises. Here today, gone tomorrow. So every time you hear them speak of these promises, ask them, how will you fund it? Will you tax us, the Jamaican people, to fund it? Will you cut something in the budget to make way for your promises? Or, like the PNP has a history of doing, will you borrow to fund it? And let them answer the question. So to the people of Jamaica, I say here we are again on the eve of an election with promises from the PNP that they have not explained how they will fund. We know their history. The PNP are the party that puts more taxes on the people. They are the party that adds more debt to the debt stock. Do not let them anywhere near Jamaica House. They will wreck the economy again. They do not understand this country's budget. They do not understand government, and the PNP are not ready to lead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very much, Favour. I believe it was the late, great Nelson Mandela that said education is the most powerful tool which may be used to change the globe. That's a conviction of the Jamaica Labour Party and the administration of Dr. Holness. I invite Senator Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon to present her comments.
Thank you very much, Abka, and good afternoon to everyone here. And my role today is to give some commentary on the manifesto of the PNP, specifically looking at the education, youth and skills section, and also the digital transformation related areas. And when I read through it, it was very clear to me that you could say that the PNP chooses the Jamaica Labour Party. That's what I got from the manifesto, and especially with education. Let's note that our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, created a commission, an education commission, to look at how we can improve education. That commission gave us the Patterson report. And we reported recently that we're already 30% down the road in implementing those recommendations from that esteemed body. And so when you look at the manifesto, it is indeed a cut and paste of the Andrew Holness administration's policies. And I'll go through a few areas. I could go through many more, but I know our chair will say I need to stop after a little bit. But if we look at literacy and numeracy, a few minutes after I was appointed Minister of Education on October 31, 2024, I said that the goal of the administration and my goal would be to focus on literacy and numeracy and to ensure that every child is literate and numerate before they leave primary school. But then I read in the manifesto, the PMP promises that every child can read, write, do arithmetic, and reason by age 12. Sounds like exactly what I said on October 31, 2024. In terms of early childhood education, I saw a note that said the PMP is seeking to reintroduce structured early childhood screening from age 3 to identify special needs early. And I'd like to note that recently I spoke to Jamaica about this being a top priority of the administration already. And we have already implemented a new age 4 assessment across all of our basic schools in Jamaica, where we are looking at being able to do just that. And so the Jamaica Early Childhood School Readiness Assessment was designed to screen 4-year-old children for child developmental delays and readiness for primary school. All students who have been identified as potential special needs children have a new program that's been created for them to support their continued development. So on those points, we're already doing it, and that's already been articulated as policy. In relation to special education, it's another area we have spoken a lot about. And when I looked at what it says a lot of what we are already doing. So for example, it notes that we're going to provide resources to place an emphasis on the diagnosis of learning disabilities. I thought that was what I wrote. I had to read it again. It sounded exactly like what we've been doing in our administration. We have noted that we are building a new diagnostic center for children with special needs at CASE. And just on Sunday at our mass rally, the Prime Minister again articulated how central special needs are and how we are expanding services to parents of children with special needs. On school nutrition, another area where we are doing so much work on nutrition. We already spend $9 billion a year to support our children, especially those on
All right, guys. So we'll just wait until we get back some feed there. So we'll just keep checking. But that's the education minister there. She's sharing in the context of what the PNP has shared regarding their manifesto and what the government is currently doing. All right. So again, what they're pretty much sharing is like a cut and paste thing going on. KJ, Devon, Roger, welcome, welcome. So we're going to see if we can get connected. So we're just going to check to make sure that our feed is going well. So again, welcome one, welcome all. So happy to have you guys here with us. Ovi, I'm going to come over to you. Can you take this away?
All right, thanks for inviting me on. Guys, once you're here, please, we're asking you just to hit the like button, hit the subscription button, turn your post notification on. This is the place where you can get all of the updates as it relates to the impending election that is coming up on, you know, September 3rd. So we're asking you just to stick and to stay here with us. And let me also take time out to welcome you all here. We're really happy to have you here with us. And as I said before, if you're not permanently here, meaning that if you're not subscribed yet, I'm asking you to consider doing so and stick and stay here with us. You being here would make this space a little bit nicer. So we really, really want you to be here with us. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know if you're new to this channel. We really want you to be an integral part of this channel. Your voice is necessary here. So let us know in the chat so we can give you a warm voice in education. Welcome. And if you can look on your screen now, you'll see exactly what is happening. It is a media conference advisory, campaign update and matters arising that is being held here by the Jamaica Labour Party. And we have heard from, Minister Christopher Southston, and we have heard from Favour Williams as well. And we just heard from Education Minister Dana Morrison. So we're going to get back over there as soon as the feed allows us. But, they have been going through the manifesto that was
So,
put forward.
Avi, let's just go to the audio
Okay, great.
while we can get the screen back up. So let's just do that.
Introduce digital identification cards with biometric security for seamless access to services. That is NIDS. That is the same NIDS that was fought. It's the same NIDS that was challenged that now finds its way into a manifesto. But I'd like to remind Jamaica that NIDS was launched in late 2024. In addition to that, broadband access. The manifesto notes that they're going to be doing more broadband. We are already doing that. 700 schools, over 700 schools now have internet, and more than 380 communities have Wi-Fi. They talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and having an AI and ethics commission. We convened a AI task force early. We have an AI policy in education. We're the first country in the Caribbean to have that. We're already a leader in AI and doing big things in artificial intelligence. So as I read the manifesto, and I put on my hat as a former lecturer at UWI who used to have to mark master's theses, I had to wonder, why did it sound so much like what we're already doing? It couldn't just be that, you cut and paste. Now, I'm a big proponent of using artificial intelligence. And so as I thought through it, I realized that this must have used AI. And so I asked ChatGPT, I prompted ChatGPT to write an education plan for Jamaica. Did it in ChatGPT 5. And when the results came, which I have here, sounded just like the manifesto. The education section sounded just like that. And for those of you who know, ChatGPT 5, their data was mostly cut off in October 24. So the training data that's used was from then. And so that's why it looks so much like what we've already articulated and what we are doing. So it sounds like something from AI. And so in terms of my thoughts, having read those sections and analyzed it and analyzed the broader document, it appears that their manifesto is really a Choose the Jamaica Labour Party manifesto, or indeed a Choose the Andrew Holness administration manifesto. And I say it's indeed a love letter, but it's a love letter to the policies of the Jamaica Labour Party.
Thank you very much, Dana, for a very impressive and comprehensive presentation, which confirms that the administration of Dr. Holness is getting it done, certainly in the area of education. But there are a number of areas as well which the opposition has commented on, which requires critical analysis. And I now turn over to the chairman of the Manifesto and Achievements Committee, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith.
Thank you, Senator Fitzhenley. And thank you, colleagues. Good afternoon to media present. Good afternoon to... Sound on?
Yeah, so.
Yo. Good afternoon to everyone who is with us here in the room, and of course, everyone who's joining us online, everyone who's watching in Jamaica, and of course, overseas. I have a particular love for you, so welcome. And again, we're glad you're spending time with us. I'll just try to touch on a few areas, and I want to start with the title of the PNP's manifesto. And I want to make it clear that my view is that, and my considered view, is that the title they have used is the most insincere and disingenuous title which the PNP could have chosen for their manifesto. Why do I say this? They have spent the last 3 to 4 years tearing down Jamaica in every forum, whether domestically or internationally, maligning our systems recklessly without any concern as to the risk to which they have put our systems or our beloved country. They have maligned the media, which affects our global media freedom positioning on the index. They have accused us recklessly and baselessly of corruption, which affects our transparency perception index. We are grateful that
We are grateful that the Media Without Borders or Journalists Without Borders do, however, check their facts, because we have continued to do very well on that index, and we have continued to score the highest as compared to under the PNP's administration on the Transparency Perception Index, because it is recognized that the facts do not match with the PNP's narrative. However, not only to tear Jamaica down internationally, but to start your campaign with the mantra of blood and fire, recalling one of, if not the most politically violent periods in Jamaica's history, at a time when the government is working relentlessly to restore peace. And then
is replicate or repackage policies and programs in place by the Jamaica Labour Party is astonishing. It is astonishing. And I heard someone this morning on the radio describing it as continuity, which we should celebrate. But that is in fact not the case. If it were continuity, they would say so. But what they have done is actually position the programs and the policies as if they are new and as if they are theirs, without any reference or acknowledgement to the fact that there are things in progress. That is not continuity. That is political and intellectual dishonesty or ignorance. The Jamaican people can assess and decide which one it is. Neither one is good or ready to lead. If I take that approach and apply it to the foreign affairs and foreign trade section of the manifesto, because as my colleagues have worn their portfolio hats, I'm going to wear my hat for a little while. Their very first proposal, if I recall correctly, is that they will restore active re-engagement within CARICOM. Who is chair of CARICOM? Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness is the chair of the Conference of Heads of Government and State of CARICOM at this point in time. For the second time, we have chaired COFCOR, we have chaired COFCOTED, Prime Minister is also the chair of the External Trade Negotiations Committee in the quasi-cabinet of CARICOM, one of the areas which is most critical and on which he's leading now, given the various trade challenges which are affecting the region. We were the very first country in the Caribbean. Prime Minister Holness was the first Prime Minister in Parliament to call for the UN to assist Haiti. He was the only, and is to date, the only CARICOM Prime Minister who has gone to Haiti to meet with stakeholders, to engage with their leadership and their political and stakeholders with a view to finding solutions. Jamaica hosted 2 Haiti stakeholder meetings, including the one that delivered the breakthrough for the establishment of the Transitional Presidential Council, which is currently offering leadership to that country. To say that you are going to actively re-engage, are you uninformed or are you politically dishonest? Again, Jamaica must make the choice, having looked, but neither is good. I want to make the point as well, in respect of their engagement with CARICOM, that when we took office, I'm sure you must all know, even if you didn't personally experience, but how Jamaicans were treated when we traveled within the region was not good. And it was particularly bad with Trinidad, and our goods were not given access to their markets. And we have literally fixed both problems. We now travel with very good relations. They're not perfect. No system is ever perfect when you're relying on individuals to implement systems, but government to government, across administrations on their side, and certainly as it has been over the last 9 years, massively improved, and something that we continue to work on. Our trade within CARICOM continues to be positive. And in fact, we've even had several win-win circumstances where we have been exporting refined oil to Trinidad, which they are able to add value to and export elsewhere, earning on both sides. So again, to actively restore engagement, we're not sure where they're coming from with all of that. I want to also note that they have said that they will be working and restoring on international cooperation and human rights and self-determination, etc. But Jamaica has stood on every forum or in every forum for the territorial sovereignty of Guyana and Belize in their territorial disputes. We have stood with Ukraine in their with the war which has sought to offend the principles of territorial integrity and sovereignty. We have recognized the state of Palestine with a view to seeking a 2-state solution. We are the first government to make that recognition since independence, which means that the PNP has never done it, even though they're willing to try and raise a flag, again, demonstrating that they are all about gimmicks and image and what they think people want to see or hear. But when it comes to doing the actual work, the Jamaica Labour Party is doing it already. They say that they're going to engage the diaspora on constitutional reform, but Minister Malahoo Fort has been having town halls in the US and in the UK, and this process is not done yet. So they're not adding any value to the area of foreign affairs and foreign trade. And I really suggest that they do a little research and maybe check out our website. Now, there's another matter that I want to raise in this area, because they also said that they will restore Brand Jamaica. And I also have to make the point, because it's related, that they have not even mentioned the word multilateralism in their foreign affairs section. Multilateralism is the core of small state foreign policy. One state, one vote is the only way for countries like Jamaica, like our CARICOM member states, small island developing states, to have an equal voice on the global challenges that affect us all, like climate change, like financing for development and other major issues. And to not even have it referenced in a passing way shows a fundamental lack of understanding of where we are in the world and what we need to do to navigate the very choppy seas which exist. And in restoring Brand Jamaica, I have to ask, which PNP leader or member has ever been invited to the G7? Which one has ever been invited to the G20? Which one has ever been invited to BRICS or BRICS Plus? I don't know if any have. In fact, I know they haven't. But I can say that Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness has attended. And I'm happy to announce and make public that over the past month, he has since been invited to the G20 again by President Ramaphosa, the incoming president of BRICS. So, of the G20. He has been invited to the G20 again by the incoming president of G20, President Ramaphosa. So we're not speaking about things that have long gone and that things have changed and our reputation has changed. Not at all. Prime Minister Holness, Jamaica, and indeed the government under the Labour Party is held in the highest regard internationally. And if I just add one more, and I know, Mr. Chairman, that I can't go on forever, but which of their leaders have ever been asked by a UN Secretary General to lead any global initiative? Again, the answer is going to be the same to both, because Prime Minister Andrew Holness has been asked to lead more than one on climate finance, on financing for development, on the sustainable development goals, and on which he co-chairs the SG's leadership initiative. I will deal with one more issue of content, please, with your indulgence. On crime, the PNP's manifesto is an absolute and complete and abject failure. On crime, the PNP's manifesto is a complete failure. In a country where organized gangs are responsible for more than 70% of murders, are directly responsible for more than 70% of murders. The PNP's manifesto does not even include the word gang. There's a vague reference to scamming networks in a sentence somewhere in it, but they have not even said the word gangs. They absolutely 100% do not understand how to deal with crime in this country. On the other hand, the government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Holness and Dr. Chang, have been relentlessly dismantling gangs, bringing them down from over 300 to just over 100. And that has not changed the percentage or proportion for which gangs are responsible for murders. It still remains at an average 70% because it shifts even with gang activity. I want to make it clear that this fundamental lack of understanding is the very same reason why under the PNP between 1990 to 2007, when they were in office, Jamaica became known as the murder capital of the world. It was under them and their poor crime management that murders moved from 400 to over 1,000. It is under them between 2012 and 2016 that the gangs reorganized, even though they inherited a downward trending murder rate when they took office from the Labour Party in 2012. So this is not a party that you can trust on crime. They have an opportunity or had an opportunity to demonstrate an understanding, and they have failed. I want to make it clear as well that even with that massive demonstration of a lack of understanding, in addition to that, we have more of their cut and paste because of their 27 crime proposals, so the sensible ones, 70% of them are already being done. We are doing them already. And since we're doing them successfully, I think that the Jamaican people must understand that we are the party, we are the government in which they should put their trust on crime. Giving them responsibility again is going to undoubtedly reverse the gains that we have had. We are already celebrating more than 40% reduction, supporting the security forces with more mobility, more technology, more strategy, more training, more welfare support, better working conditions, more police stations that are renovated, built, and restored. And in that context, it is the Jamaica Labour Party who is the party that you should trust on crime. So I know that there are more things that can be said. I want to just make clear that Minister Morgan will be taking forward the issue of roads in the days to come. Minister Samuda will take on the environment and water in days to come. He did, however, ask me to make the point that on funding of NGOs, the government is already funding small NGOs in the environmental sector under the GEF Small Grant Fund. And he thought it was very important that I make this point. So I'm making it for him, but he will raise other matters. And Minister Green will also take forward issues on agriculture. So I know, Mr. Chairman, that there are more things to discuss, but I will close on that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Johnson Smith, for a contribution which has made it clear that whereas national security and foreign affairs are concerned, the Jamaica Labour Party administration is achieving positive outcomes on behalf of the people of Jamaica. On the other hand, the PNP is doing quite a job of talking about getting it done and pretending that it is not being done. To all media partners, we thank you much for your patience and attention to this media conference, and we now open the floor for questions. We ask that you identify yourself and your media house. Ask one question, keep the mic moving. Then if you have other questions, we'll get the mic back to you. This is to ensure that as many people as possible get the opportunity to ask questions. Our first question is from... Oh, there are no questions?
One there, one over here.
I think I recognize Dwayne Anderson from Television Jamaica. Dwayne.
Yeah, thank you. Correct. Okay. Good afternoon to the people at the podium. I remember very well prior to the Jamaica Labour Party coming to power in 2016, a lot was said by the then administration about what cannot be done. And I'm listening to the Jamaica Labour Party on this particular campaign trail, and it's echoing in a similar way, some may say. Are you fearful any at all that you could be going down a similar path?
I didn't understand the question.
So 1.5?
Yes. So at the time, the People's National Party administration spent a lot of time telling Jamaicans why certain proposals being made by the opposition at the time cannot work. And it echoes in a similar way now. Are you concerned that Jamaicans may be receiving your position similar to them?
You want me to go ahead and you can. There's a very sharp distinction between then and now. First of all, the results of the 9-year program of this government is very, very clear. And the statistics, the official data, the sentiments on the ground can reflect that. I give you the crime stats that my colleague spoke to earlier. 40% down in murders within a year is historic. Poverty levels, employment, and all the other.
All right, guys. So we're just waiting for, that connection. back to the JLP's press conference. All right, so no fault of ours here. So we'll definitely connect you once that is back up and running. So if you're in the chat, thanks for being here. Soji, all right, I'm just seeing you here. Good, good. Welcome, welcome. All right, and yes, guys, hit the like button. Nadine, your first time here. We do quite a lot of programs, all right? So welcome. Namara, welcome, welcome. So happy to have you here. All right, and all right, welcome one, welcome all. Please remember to hit the like button, hit the subscription button, and let us just continue to grow stronger together. So we're going to see how best we can get back, you know, that connection. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. And that's no fault of ours.
Areas that we have
Here we go.
identified. And we have also
So it's just in and out, guys, in and out. So we'll try to keep you connected. So let's just see if we can get the audio going again.
and we have also been able during that time to stabilize the economy to pay down the debt. So it's a much different context. It's hard for you to compare 2016 with today, because it's a very different context totally, both in terms of the challenges, but also in terms of the achievements. But the other very sharp distinction, which gives us the right to make the claims that we make, is we say the cut and paste hodgepodge nature of what has been put out by the PNP. The truth is, I would say close to 70% of what they have put there, if it makes sense, because it doesn't make sense in all certain cases, as we have said, is being done in some way, shape, or form by the government. I looked at what they've said in health, and there's hardly anything there that they've said that we.
Okay. But the light isn't coming.
It's on.
There we go. Thank you, digital experts. Just to make the point that still is not even in their manifesto. And what that shows is the two different capacities and understandings of the teams that make up the parties that form potential governments in this country. One has been able to prove that it is able to do what it says and says what it will do, and the other continues to say anything that it thinks will give them a forward or that will help people support them. But they have consistently, in the 1970s, in the 1990s, and in the 2000s, been unable to deliver for the Jamaica people in the same way that they haven't even been able to stick to a policy position that's clear on an income tax threshold.
Thank you, Senator. Another question.
Siobhan Campbell, Nationwide News. I have several, but in the interest of protocol, I'll ask those in our second go around. My question is to the chairman. You said the manifesto, your manifesto, the JLP's manifesto, will come at an appropriate time, but we are less than a month from the general election. What does the JLP then consider an appropriate time? And in an addendum to that, the People's National Party is suggesting that you've delayed that manifesto launch because you're going to attempt to one-up them, as they so say. What do you respond to that?
I will say that the absolute gall of a party that copied and pasted half of our policies and programs, put them forward to then say that we're waiting to copy them. I mean, there's so much dissonance in what they're saying that any Jamaican who sits to think for 2 seconds about what they say and what they do will see that they are simply not ready. They're not ready. We're confident in our manifesto. And the fact is, our chairman alluded to it just a while ago, the achievement document is, people love it, they want more achievements, they want more books. it has not run its course in a sense. There's still a lot of political interest in what we have done that people feel like, but how did we not know? You guys have not been telling us what you've been doing. And they're interested and they're inspired. And we are sharing that information in response to the people who want it.
So if I may, I think it's important to say again that this organization, Jamaica Labour Party, is not pursuing the strategy that the PNP is pursuing. That's their right. They can do whatever they want. If they want to put out a AI-generated cut and paste document, for me, it's an insult to the people of Jamaica and the intelligence of the people of Jamaica. But that's their business. Our business is to provide good governance. And we also have been in government for 9+ years. And we have to, as part of our approach, demonstrate what that 9 years has resulted in. Now, people naturally know, many do, some have to be reminded. That's our strategy. The manifesto becomes now the aspirational hope for the future. We don't want to mix up the two. So this issue of timing is based on our approach, which we think is the right approach from an understanding perspective, and nobody is going to force us because they're putting out something irrespective of all the challenges that they obviously are finding out after the fact. I mean, whether it's 8, 10, or 11 pillars, for example. So that we will put out our manifesto in short order. It's completed. A lot of work went into it. Chairperson and her team, lots of consultations took place, and we're going to do it orderly, professionally, and demonstrate the future direction under the Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party.
Just to add, Dr. Topston, with regards to the booklet, Record Achievements, I have been walking in my constituency and I've walked with packets of these books, and every gate that I go to and I hand it to persons, literally they are smiling and they're so happy that I'm coming to their gate, handing them one. Persons ask for more than one from me. So it's so well received by people. They can finally read and see the number of record achievements that we have had as an administration.
Question.
Thank you, Favour. We have a question from the Gleaner.
Let me just answer it. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Tufton, could you indicate?
I'm going to ask to introduce yourself, then proceed to the question.
I'm sorry.
Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Liver and Barrett, the Gleaner. Dr. Tufton, can you indicate what is the total budget for the JLP's election campaign? And as a rider to that, can you indicate if you have received any donation from corporate Jamaica?
I can't give you any information on the total budget. There is a legal requirement, obviously, and after the fact, I think that meeting those requirements in terms of filings and so on will determine that. So if you have some patience, I'm sure that information becomes clear in due course. As it relates to donations, I know you know that we do not exist in the context of state-sponsored political campaigning, and therefore donations or contributions are par for the course by all political organizations. And therefore, I am sure that some organizations will contribute, some individuals will contribute. I have no specifics of that. That's not my area. But I don't think there is any naivety around whether or not organizations or individuals contribute to political activity, especially at this time.
My next question or series of questions is to the Minister of Finance, Favour Williams. Are you prepared for the upcoming economic debates? And there's a criticism that was going around that the format was changed somehow in order to accommodate what some see as your inexperience. How do you respond to that claim?
I am prepared for the upcoming debates. I had not heard that claim before, so I can't comment on that claim at all.
Okay, then just another one. There's a criticism leveled against the opposition spokesman, Julian Robinson, on finance, that he did not speak during their manifesto presentation. I believe it was on Tuesday. There's also a question, why did you, as the finance minister, not speak during the JLP's mass rally on Sunday?
Well, I found it curious that Julian did not speak as the spokesperson on finance. But in terms of the lineup for speakers at the mass rally, Dr. Tufton, there are decisions.
I don't think you should compare both, actually. It's at two different contexts, and we don't have the right to speak about why their persons speak or don't speak. That's not our business. Maybe it's because he wasn't proud of the document, but that's just my speculation. In terms of our program, we have an approach where we position ourselves as a team. It's a team effort here around this table. There are several teams right now in the field as we speak, working with candidates, campaigning, carrying the message of the Labour Party. And that's how we do it. We decide what is appropriate at a particular point in time. We are very comfortable and confident with our Minister of Finance. She has demonstrated, as just a while ago, that she understands the budgetary process, that she's sharp, and that she is doing and has done an excellent job. And she has several responsibilities, constituency included, and you are hearing from her now, and the country will continue to hear from her going into the election.
Okay, then just two final ones, one to you, Dr. Tufton, and one to Dr. Morris Dixon. There is a call that you apologize for what it now seems to be doctored audio played of KD Knight during the mass rally. Would you answer that call to apologize? And to Dr. Morris Dixon, your opposition spokesperson suggests that there was a fall in literacy and numeracy under the current administration. He's essentially suggesting the current administration is at fault for that. How do you respond to that claim?
Okay, so I've seen in the media space a published document or a written document that is supposed to be served on me. I have not received it as yet. And as soon as I receive it, my lawyers are on standby to respond and to make a counterclaim against the individual who has made their claim. So until I receive that document, I have no other comment on the matter. I've said what I've said, and I hold my position.
Right, thank you for that question, and I'm glad I get a chance to clarify things. When we look at the data around literacy and around numeracy, you see a different kind of picture. There's some years where you see the scores up, some years where the scores are down. Also depends on what metric you're looking at. Now, we do know that we went through a pandemic that had significant impact on our children. Significant learning losses took place. That is globally identified as a problem for many children. So we look at a lot of the data coming out of COVID and right after COVID. Across the world, you see a dip in some of the performance of our children. So that's universal. But what have we done? What have we done as an administration? We have doubled down our efforts to reach these children. We've had the maths camps, the English camps that I see in the manifesto also, but we've been doing that. If you look at footage from December last year, during Christmas, I was teaching in one of the maths camps. So we've been working really intensively with our students and with our teachers. And you would have seen success already. The PEP results were clear. We went up. Those children at grade 4 who did PEP this year at grade 6, we were really, really worried about them at grade 4. And now at grade 6, their scores increased tremendously. So that says to Jamaica that we are seeing results. We're seeing success for our children. And then tomorrow, listen out. Tomorrow, CXC results are coming out. And you will see the results of the work of this administration tomorrow, also as a part of that release of the data.
Hint, hint, hint.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dana Morris Dix. We're prepared to take two more questions. Then we'll bring a close to this media conference as news time approaches.
News time is approaching. Thank you, Abka, for one final one from me. The opposition, the PNP, they've repeatedly mentioned this discretionary spend that each administration has around $350 billion. From what you know, Minister Williams, is such a spend in existence, and why using the funds from that? Would it be reckless or damaging to the future of the country?
As I said when I started out, there is no major line item in the budget called discretionary spending. There's none. It doesn't exist. That 359 billion you're talking about has to do with programs that we have to fund year after year after year. PATH program, grants to all our schools to ensure that they operate their, they need it for their daily operations. What we use in terms of providing for safety and security, health supplies and services, social security and welfare services, sickness and disability. There are a number of programs, important programs, that have to be funded on a recurring basis year after year after year. And so that's why I am saying to the PNP, tell us how you're going to fund your promises. Which of these programs, these recurring programs, will you do away with? Which one of them will you cut? Because I don't know where they get this idea or this notion that there are billions of discretionary funds sitting around in government. That is not so. And it just shows their lack of understanding of the budget of the government.
Do we have an additional question? No, we don't. Thank you much for those closing comments from the Honorable Favour Williams, arguably the most qualified individual to have assumed the post of Minister of Finance in independent Jamaica. Thank you much to our media partners for your attendance at this media conference. Our gratitude as well to our presenters, and to those of you who are watching online. The Jamaica Labour Party appreciates your listenership and indeed your viewership. We continue to choose policies and programs which are in the best interest of Jamaica. We choose Jamaica, and in turn we humbly ask that you choose the Jamaica Labour Party. Much has been accomplished by the administration of Dr. Holness, but we have a firm commitment to do more for you. Thank you, and have a very good afternoon.
Very well.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with us, and even through some technical difficulties. And so, guys, that is one of the reasons we ask you to support us so that we can continue to grow stronger together. Tyrell, welcome, welcome. Scott, welcome, welcome. All right, thanks for being here in the chat. So I'm just going to quickly share with you some points that I managed to capture in the context of this, JLP media conference, in the context of their campaign update and matters arising. And it's pretty much really responding to the PNP's manifesto launch, Jamaica Love. And so in the context of Dr. Christopher Tufton, he opened up the conversation and sharing that, more updates are to come or to unfold from the Jamaica Labour Party. Everything is set for nomination day. And in the context of the PNP's manifesto, he shared that the document was rushed. It was already prepared based on its layout and the number of errors in the document. And for sure, how they went on with just that typo or, error there in Jamaica. And also, a big question that they had was whether, it was 8 pillars, 10, or 11. And another big thing that they're saying that the document was predominantly, according to them, copied and pasted. It was a copy and paste kind of situation, and it repeated a lot of what the government is doing. And Dr. Tufton cited like the reduction in electricity cost, but then it was the PNP's deal that increased the cost for electricity, and that the ideas that they have, they will reverse the economic gains of the country. All right, so the policies they're saying will run into debts, and it's not really Jamaica love, because the policies that they have proposed run counter to what their Jamaica love is suggesting. And he pretty much emphasized the 256 achievements of the government, that they're tangible, not promises, but things that they have managed to achieve, and asked Jamaicans to judge the Jamaica Labour Party on those achievements. He also zoomed in on health in the context of what is proposed by the People's National Party in their manifesto, and he shared that a number of things the government is addressing in the context, and he mentioned maternal mortality and saying that is trending down based on what they're doing in terms of improving engagement with mothers early in their pregnancy, upgrading facilities, providing medical care and support. He also touched on the NHF, the National Health Fund, and that 9 more illnesses or conditions were added to include sickle cell, cervical cancer, ADHD, among others. And I think he made reference to 2015 that I believe less than 1 million prescriptions were filled, compared to last year in their government, where about 3 million prescriptions were written. In the context of the diaspora and its engagement, he touched on that too. And because he's the chair, I believe, of the campaigns committee, the JLP campaigns committee, so he touched on a little bit of that in terms of the number of things that they have done to facilitate engagement. So they have, direct staff in terms of that engagement. They also have provisions where, members of the diaspora can adopt a clinic. So they have that adopt a clinic program. When it comes on to shipping, I believe some custom duties or whatever are removed. He touched on cancer care and saying that they're doing a lot of things in terms of prevention. For example, the HPV vaccine, diet, mammograms, more pap smear screening, among other things. And he's saying that more can be done, but Jamaica is certainly better off than Jamaica was under the PNP government. And in the context of clinical care, that expansion of treatment services are available. So now moving on to Favour Williams, and Favour Williams started out too saying that the PNP's manifesto was pretty much hurried, many promises. It contains many promises, and she's wondering. They're saying that it's going to be 10% of the discretionary funds. So she mentioned some 10%, but we're talking about the discretionary funds now, and she's saying that there's no line item in the budget called discretionary funds. And so if they don't understand the budget according to the finance minister, how can they lead? So she continued by saying that the PNP does not understand Jamaica or the Jamaican budget. So again, they're not ready to lead. She mentioned specifically that the only line items they could consider is that of programs, right? And in that context, she's saying that line item programs contain like funding for PART, for waste management, social security, grants to all school for their daily operations, safety and security, health supplies, among other things. So again, the question is, from what they finance minister, she's asking us to ask the PNP which of these programs they will cut to fund their promises before election day. She's proposing that we ask them this question. Also follow up with, will you tax the Jamaican people? Will you cut services, or will you borrow to fund the programs that you're proposing? All right, and pretty much saying that they will wreck the economy. So I can share a little bit from our education minister, Dana, because we were disconnected at some point. But she was pretty much sharing too that based on the PNP's manifesto, they are choosing Jamaica because a lot of what they have shared is pretty much the government. Christopher Tufton was saying there, int, is that the CSEC results obviously are better this year because usually the government, the ministries, they will get it, I believe, just from my little understanding, and of you can correct me here, they get it ahead of the schools. So the mere fact that the education minister can say, hey, this is happening, this is a plus for them right just before the election. So for sure, we are going to look forward to that. I believe they will be released tomorrow. And so that is something, and they're letting you know, hint, so that's coming. So kudos to them. Once that is going up, that means things are looking good for our students. So we'll see how that goes. She also mentioned screening for learning needs, and that's already in place. The Jamaica Early Childhood Readiness Assessment is a program there for assessment, I believe, students age 4, and just to support children and their development, and and to support students who are assessed to have special needs. So just that I got there in the context of and then what was very important and something that kind of came up with our conversation, just Ovi and I, was the use of AI. Particularly, we pinpointed a, an aspect specific in the PNP's launch where we're suspecting AI. But then the minister was able to share, further, the education minister saying that, she did a little check using chat GTP, and I believe it was chat GTP 5. And, and in terms of the prompt, and it's bringing back what they're pretty much recognizing in the PNP's manifesto. No, I guess you have AI to help, but we need your thoughts, and so cut and paste. And we all know that AI is not 100% if you know anything about AI, and not everything will work. So I am not too sure, but that's just what the education minister there was sharing. Then Kamina went back and she talked about the title being insincere of the PNP's manifesto, and the facts they don't match with PNP's what they're sharing. They don't match. And she mentioned about the Blood and Fire campaign, and how that is not a good fit in the context of, politics and its history with violence. And again, repeating what was said, that the policies are pretty much replicating, government programs or what they've achieved or what they're doing. And there is no reference to the fact that the programs are already in place for those, according to them, cut and paste policies. And she highlighted an area where the PNP was sharing that they're going to restore active engagement in CARICOM. And she was like, hello, the PM is the chair of CARICOM. And she went on to share, further about engagement in the Caribbean community, including Haiti. I'm just going, and she mentioned, relations in terms of goods and relations with countries like Trinidad, and saying that it's not perfect, but obviously it's better based on what she shared there. And mentioned too about the diaspora and the consultations being done by the constitutional minister there, Malawi Fort, and restoring brand Jamaica. And she was asking like, what, and she asked a question, which PNP leader has ever been invited to like the G7, the G20, the BRICS Plus? And he was sharing that, the current prime minister has attended those events or summits, and he was invited to the G20 by the incoming president. And she also mentioned, I believe, that there wasn't anything in their manifesto regarding multilateralism and the UN General Secretary. And she asked again, which PNP leader has ever been asked to lead, certain initiatives. And again, the answer is, the Prime Minister has done, I guess, a few or several. And she touched on crime and to say that there was nothing in the PNP's manifesto regarding gangs, and that gangs were responsible for more than 70% of murders in Jamaica, and their manifesto does not include the word gang. And she was just making the point that the PNP, they do not understand how to deal with crime. And the JLP, on the other hand, has been dismantling gangs in the country. She mentioned that under the PNP, Jamaica became the murder capital of the world. And so, with those contexts, what Miss Kamina Johnson Smith is sharing is that you cannot trust the PNP when it comes to crime. All right. And so, lots there. And she mentioned some other things too in terms of the other ministers who are going to share there. But that's pretty much, the roundup that I have for you guys in that context. Ovi, I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to share, any points that stood out to you from, what the Jamaica Labour Party shared just now.
All right. Thank you for that overview. Just a few things I would like to mention. They talked about the pillars that the manifesto was built on and the inconsistencies with numbers. Sorry. They mentioned 8, 10, and 11 pillars. So that's kind of not representing the PNP very well. And, they mentioned the errors that were in the manifesto that was put forward by the PNP as well. So lots there, and that one is really heartfelt by them because they the PNP identified errors in their book of achievements. So that was pretty much something that was critical for me in terms of what they have done. But they got the chance to scrutinize the manifesto put forward, and they came out and addressed aspects of it. But I think you did a great job with covering most of what was said. They mentioned lots of cut and pasting, saying that the policies put forward by the PNP are mirroring what they have been doing or have established. So that's pretty much where everything kind of focused on. So that was pretty good. And as it relates to the media section, I like the question that came in from the reporters that asked them about why the finance ministers on both sides did not, speak on they had the mass rally for the JLP and on as it relates to the manifesto to the PNP. So that was good to hear. That was a good question coming out from the media persons. So overall, that was it. It's good that the JLP could come forward and provide some update on where their thinking is. So that's my little contribution as it relates to this media conference advisory.
Okay, so why was that question good for you? The question
Well, the
regarding
question,
the
so
finance minister and the shadow finance, not the shadow, the
yeah,
opposition spokesperson on finance.
it's just a way to find out why, why they did that in a particular way, why the parties didn't put forward the minister of,
So did
or the
you
person
get the
representing
okay, so
finance.
did you get the answer you were looking for?
Well, what I didn't get the, well, so let me put it this way. Faval was coming a little bit, but Christoph Kahn stepped in and addressed it, saying that they have teams and they have their thing organized in a particular way, and certain teams deal with certain issues. So I guess that was the answer from him, and he also stated that they can't speak for the PNP side of things. So I think he addressed it in a let's say a political.
Okay. But were you what would you have expected from Faval at the calling of an election? Like where the prime minister is going to announce an election. What would you have expected from the finance minister there?
Well, if and I said if she was supposed to speak on finance, she could have also spoke about the achievement that they have done in terms of you know in any achievement that they have had, because that was the theme that they used on the political platform. So I would say go that way and, put forward what they're thinking about, going forward in terms of finance, where they're going to be having their spending done and, in that regard. So that's what I was expecting.
Okay. I guess we have different expectations and I totally get you on that, but like if for example they do like like they did with the PNP a manifesto launch would and to say they're going to do proposals, and I would want to hear from the finance minister to say, okay, this is how we're going to finance these plans, because I see the finance ministers someone who is there to say, okay, let's say the minister of health has something that they want to do, and they say, okay, honorable minister, how can we do this? I have this in mind. Is there anything in the budget can do that? So that's how I kind of see it, and I know I guess you had your expectations, and that is totally okay and fine. But for me, and when you think about Jamaican people, the speaker that they really want to hear at the time of when an election is going to be called is the leader. So even with everything else happening, they want to hear from their leader, and so I guess I don't know, but I guess that's how
I
they try.
and
I
and
can't speak for
I,
them.
I I agree with you, but there are certain ministries that you would consider, a little bit more
At a
important, I
at
would
a
say.
election campaign, like calling of an election, like I can understand, like if you're doing certain. So, for example, now I get why the journalists would have asked the question, but to the wrong people. About why the opposition spokesperson finance wasn't there, because that's a proposal, right? And they're talking figures. They're telling you about how much billion or how much this, how much that. So it would have been good to have that person talking, even though they can say, because they're looking at specific pillars, and this person would have been integral already in terms of telling us that we can do this or we can do that, then there wasn't any reason to single that person out, which is the similar thing on the other side, the JLP. Because if you're doing something from a team effort, like the prime minister is a leader, and you have the people who are collaborating, so the cabinet working with the prime minister, and the finance minister, who is very integral in ensuring that whatever programs they're coming up with, we can still balance the budget. We don't want any new taxes. We don't want to borrow any more money like that. So it's like the finance minister is very integral, but when it comes on to talking, the finance minister then would have to talk on all the areas: crime, agriculture, health, education, every program, because it means that the finance ministry is touching on all these programs, transportation. So then it would make sense then, if we're going to look at that, then the finance minister will be covering all those areas, because really the finance has to be right there in the center so those programs that they want to deliver can work. So you just think about it. So everything she would have to touch. And I feel that perhaps in that case, on a political rally, that might have been just too much. If she's going to repeat everything that everybody has said, like, okay, the bus, yes, we allocate so and so, we have the money so that we can allow students to ride on it 2 months free. Then it's going to be subsidized over crime. This is what we do. Then, I remember the prime minister is coming again to summarize some of these things and repeat some of these things. So it all depends. So she would have to have something specific, similar to how you notice here, the secure Dr. Chang wasn't here, but Kamina touched a little bit on crime, and say, okay, when the other ministers, they'll be sharing further. So those little things. So it's like, and I guess the PNP can use that too in their defense. By all means, it's only fair if we're looking at it on that part, because it could be where Julian was very instrumental in creating those policies and say, okay, let's do that, or it could be that he wasn't a part of that, and I don't know. So yeah, but for sure, I get it, and that's the same thing when we talk about people will have different priorities when it comes to the elections. And so for some people, housing may be a priority. For others, it's education. So, and that is why, they try to get, I guess, a range of programs. For some people it's the road, some people it's water, some people it's the JPS bills. So, different priorities. And yeah, and if your priorities align with, I want to hear from the finance minister and how these things are going to be, then for sure that could be something that could strengthen your what would I say now, or strengthen your beliefs about a particular point, or give you enough information to make an informed decision for sure. So yes, guys, we're going to wrap up this one. Please ensure that you hit the like button and the subscription button and join us later on. So later on is going to be a quick and short one. All right, Eve, welcome. Later on is going to be a quick and short one. All right, so ensure that you hit the like button, hit the subscription button, and turn on your post notification so that you do not miss any updates from this channel, especially our constituency predictions. All right, so we're going to do that after nomination day, once we have the official list of the candidates. All right, so you want to ensure that you're sticking and staying with us. If you have not yet hit the subscription button, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscription button right now. We do quite a lot of programs, so we share on current affairs, so like politics happening right now. We do athletics, so we'll be here. I don't know if tomorrow is going to run, but we'll try to bring you an update on what's going on in Bahamas. And Saturday for sure, Poland stop in the Diamond League. We'll be here for that. So we do quite a lot of programs here. If you're interested in the Costa Cup, that's coming up too. World Championship. So if you're interested, just continue to stick and stay with us. Voices in Education is a safe space where we share and learn from each other. We do that in a respectful way so that we are maintaining our safe space, our safe community where you feel valued and a sense of belonging. On that note, we do not bash or belittle or disrespect or defame anyone. We keep it real and respectful. We understand too that we share different views, and that's totally okay. There is so much richness in diversity, so that is why we keep it real and respectful. and we can always share our views here. So later will be greater, and we would like you to join us later on where you can call us live and share. So stick and stay with us. Ovi, do you have any final comments that you'd like to share?
Just want to say thanks to all the persons who are here, who have joined us, all the new persons that are here, for the persons who have been here and sticking and staying with us. We look forward to seeing you later as well. Please remember to hit the like button and the subscription button if you haven't done so before you leave, so that we can connect later on. Take care and walk good.
Fantastic. Blessings and love, everyone. And I'll see you in the next live. Take a moment to hit that like button, that subscription button, share. Tell a friend, tell a family member about the voices in education. It's not just my voice or Ovi's voice, it's our voices, all right? Voices. And we want to hear from you. So consider becoming a subscriber or a member of the Voices in Education community. The word is love, guys. So treat each one with respect and love and continued blessings. We'll see you in the next live. Bye for now.